Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. Beautiful day here in Humboldt, and I hope it's going well where you're at. And know everybody's kind of getting started on their week. If you haven't already made it to work, hope you have a great week here this week. I want to take you today to Matthew chapter 23. We're just now coming out of a fantastic missions conference, and I began to think about this morning as I would think about what I'm going to say today about how that, priorities today with some people are different than what they used to be many years ago. When you have elections and that kind of thing, priorities are changing. They say, you gotta determine what the American people, just for instance, when you have an election, a presidential election, or even just a local election, what are the main priorities or concerns of those people? And then you work towards solving those problems. Today, I want to take you kind of 30,000 feet in the air, if you will, and look at Matthew 23. I'm not going to go necessarily verse by verse in this entire chapter, but in this chapter, Jesus used the word woe, W-O-E, 8 times. And these woes denounced the Pharisees who were righteous, or let me go back, not necessarily righteous, they were religious leaders of that day in the time of Christ. And so the Pharisees believed that the oral law existed in addition to the written law of Moses. In theory, the Pharisees' oral law applied the written law. Their efforts were pragmatic, and so through it, the Pharisees gained political influence among the common people. Seldom was Jesus ever politically correct. In Matthew 23, Jesus took the Pharisees to tasks. You can read his 8 woes. They are in Matthew 23, verses 13 through 16. And then you hear it in 23, verse 25, verse 27, and then verse 29 again. And each time that Jesus uses the word woe in this chapter, it is concerning people and their priorities. The problem that Jesus brought to light, the Pharisees made certain that, easily measurable things, a priority at the same time. He said, while you do this, he said that you're minimizing some important things. I'm not saying that what you're doing was 100% wrong in what you're saying, but maybe how you're going about it is wrong. And so when you look at it, the Pharisees, what they had done, I don't even know if this is a word, I think it had codified, they had kind of made Moses' law to the point where common sense even had just gone out the window. And so Jesus, he's basically saying, I'm not going to have any of that. Seth Wilkerson's simple commentary of this chapter is this. I'm not going to read all the chapter to you, but I do want you to notice these woes that he mentioned. And we're talking about priorities. He says, verse 13, woe to making it hard to enter into the kingdom for both yourself and others. Verse 14, he says, woe to long prayers while you take advantage of other people who have no strength to defend themselves. Verse 15, woe to your efforts to make converts and then train them to convert to apply your own poor priorities. Verse 16 through 21, he tells them, woe to making the symbolism of the temple and the altar more important than the God of the temple and the altar. In verse 23, he says, woe to you for not making mercy and fairness or judgment significant parts of your behavior, even though you do well with your practice of tithing. Verse 25, woe to giving attention to the external appearance of things while you're self-centered. Verses 27 through 28, he says, woe to being content to appear right while inside you stink. And then in 29 through 31 of Matthew 23, he says, woe to you for celebrating God things that people like you once persecuted, and now you're doing as your forefathers by persecuting the God things of the present. It wasn't that the Pharisees were always wrong. I want to be very clear about this today. It wasn't, Jesus, he didn't really indict everything that they did. He just was strongly indicting their failed priorities. The Pharisees were long on public presentation, but they were short on substance. They were heavyweights on the platform, if you will, but they were featherweights in compassion. And so to the Pharisees, what mattered the most was appearing to be right, maintaining their influence over the people, and living in their Pharisee comfort zone. And Jesus comes on the scene and he shakes up the Pharisees. And the Pharisees just didn't like him. They did not like his message. Neither did they like all these new people that Jesus was discipling. So you say, well, Pastor, what are you getting at today? We can become the very same thing. In other words, we can learn how to perform on Sunday, Wednesday, or, even on an off day when there's a work day or whatever, when the church people are around. But when we're not there, where is our priorities? We can become heavyweights on the platform or heavyweights on the church property, but featherweights in our walk with God, in our compassion, and where we're supposed to really live out this life with God. And so today I want to ask you some questions at the end of this. What do you think should be the priorities for present day Christians? What do you think should be the priorities for present day Christians? And then I want to ask you, in what ways can we, I'm going to say we, because, this morning I'm even convicted because there's times where I may have even been like the Pharisees myself. In what ways can we be more interested in our public presentation than in exercising compassion? Sorry, these dogs are going nuts. I apologize. In what ways can we potentially be like the Pharisees and being more interested in our public presentation than in exercising compassion? And then I want to challenge you today to go back to Matthew 23 and read the woes of this chapter, of these 8 issues, in this chapter. Hold on. Stop. In what ways, when we read those 8 issues that Jesus had in Matthew 23, which do you find yourself most likely struggling with? And then you need to ask yourself, why? Why do I struggle with that? What do I need to do to overcome this wrong priority or wrong behavior? And if you've not risen above that wrong behavior, what do you need to do to have the victory? What do you need to do to have the victory? Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you was able to hear a little bit there at the end. Stop. This dog will not leave me alone today. They don't want anything to do with me until I turn the cameras on and start doing something like this. But anyway, I hope you have a great day. We had a great missions conference this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We had a great time and appreciate the response. I want to say this to Harvest Church, the response that you gave Brother Hyduke and Sister Hyduke, the missionaries that were with us, was fantastic. Also, the response to Brother Beckton yesterday and your faith promise commitments. We're excited about what God is going to do in this coming year and where he's going to take us. Appreciate you joining me today. Don't forget we have Harvest Kids online tonight. You don't want to miss this. There's a little special treat in this tonight, so you don't want to miss that at all. Appreciate you joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your day.